Welcome back to Worlds Within, where story becomes space. We're your hosts, Alyssa and Ash, and every episode we explore fictional worlds that don't just live on the page, they pull you in, build themselves around you, and let you wander through them. This is a podcast for readers who don't just love books, they live in them. We dive deep into sensory storytelling, character perspectives, and the world-building mechanics that turn fiction into a fully immersive experience.
If you joined us last season, our theme was show and tell. This season, we're heading into a new theme that we've called Frozen Realms. Stories set in wintry worlds full of cold magic, cozy moments, and icy stakes. Think snow-covered forests, frostbitten ice castles, and innumerable descriptions of snow and cold. So grab something warm to drink and settle in. We're going exploring. And today, we're discussing Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Let's get into the show. We open each episode with a plot teaser. We make a cuppa to match the book and read through the synopsis. Fair warning, we will discuss spoilers throughout the episode, so if you haven't read this, maybe come back to it later. Today's tea is a mint tea. Saris often describes Kingfisher as smelling like wild mint and mountain air and yada yada. Plus, I think a cup of mint tea is both warm and cool, which kind of sets us up for this wintry world.
Yeah, very much fire and ice.
Yes.
24-year-old Saris Fane is good at keeping secrets. No one knows about the strange power she possesses or the fact that she has been picking pockets and stealing from the Undying Queen's reservoirs for as long as she can remember. In the land of the unforgiving desert, there isn't much a girl wouldn't do for a glass of water. But a secret is like a knot. Sooner or later, it's bound to come undone. When Saris comes face to face with Death himself, she inadvertently opens a gateway between realms and is transported to a land of ice and snow. The Fae have always been the stuff of myth, of legend, of nightmares. But it turns out they're real, and Saris has landed right in the middle of a centuries-long conflict that might just get her killed. The first of her kind to tread in the frozen mountains of Yvelia in over 1,000 years, Saris mistakenly binds herself to Kingfisher, a handsome Fae warrior who has secrets and nefarious agendas of his own. He will use her alchemist's magic to protect his people no matter what it costs him or her. Death has a name. It is Kingfisher of the Agengate. His past is murky, his attitude stinks, and he's the only way Saris is going to make it home. So
We can't even make it through.
No, I cannot.
Okay.
All right. So let's, first of all, this, I mean, I think we both have seen this on the book talks everywhere. Like,
Yes.
This has been much like In the Veins of the Drowning. This was everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
unavoidable.
Yeah. And I believe the second book just came out.
Yes.
Very recently.
Yes.
So like, it's been big right now. So it was like definitely there. But again, like In the Veins, it was like low on the TBR. But unlike In the Veins of the Drowning, I will preview of my first impressions. Not sure that it was worth the adjustment of my TBR.
Yeah. Totally hard to ignore this one on Book Talk or any list, right? Like it almost felt like a 1-for-1 where you heard ACOTAR, you heard Quicksilver. Again, it's been on the fringes of my TBR too. And honestly, I was put off by the cover quite a bit. And I know that's like book rule number 1, like don't judge it by its cover, but I couldn't not. Like this didn't sell me. Like this guy on this cover didn't sell me at all.
Also, if I'm being honest, his leaking of the Quicksilver out of his eye,
I had no idea. I will say the re-release of this book alongside Brimstone, which is book 2, is much better. Like the branding and the cover is much better. But truthfully, I didn't know anything about this book other than it was in the genre and wintry. So here we are. So we both have true first impressions of this one.
Yeah.
And woof. Okay. I don't even think I read the synopsis or back cover of this at all. I knew it was wintry and knew it was romantic-y, and I was like, cool, this will fit like with our theme. This has been on the list. Like, let's dive into it. So when we started in Zilverin in the third, I was so thrown off. I was like, what? What? We're in the desert? I have no idea what's happening. I thought this was like a cold, frozen world. What are we doing? But I did really enjoy the first 100 pages and was intrigued by the world. As I continued, I felt like I wanted to go back to Zilverin as opposed to stay in Yavelia. Like, this has 2 sons. Like, that's really cool. This is a big sister with something to prove. Like, same. Unknown death showing up in a pool of silver. Like, intriguing. I was really interested in that place and space. And then once we got to Yavelia, I was like, oh, okay, cool. We've got contrast. And finally, we're in winter. And then it lost me.
Yeah, so even having read the synopsis, like when we were, because we had compiled our list for the season and I read through some of them to like pick which ones I felt would have been good. Mm-hmm. This one, the synopsis or like that I had read at that point felt, again, true to the season and like it'd be interesting and gave no indication of anything of the worm. So again, I was also like, what?
Where are we?
What happened? And like, yes, there are interesting facets of that. The 2 sons that never set. And very I did cool. Like that, like when we get to Yavelia and we're in the Winter Palace and they're explaining, like Everlane's explaining like the gods. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, our twin son names are also these twin sun goddesses, but one's actually supposed to be the moon. And so I was wanting more from that of like, oh, like the reason that they're still here or still remembered when the rest of the gods' names aren't is because like they're trapped in the sky or something. Like I wanted more something out of cool. that. And there was nothing. It was just, it's just that there's 2 sons.
I did like to piggyback off of that when Ceres is in Yavelia, she's like, I'd never seen the moon before. Like, I don't know what darkness is like. And I thought that was a really cool like character point and like also world building piece there.
I also like, I do think that one of the things that is interesting about this book is it is very normal for us to explore the feeling of hunger in a poorer or like more downtrodden area, but it is less common for water to be the rationed item and to be the like the thing that you're working for. Like food didn't seem plentiful per se, like, but they weren't feasting, but they didn't seem hungry.
It was thirst.
And I think honestly, that was one thing I did really like about this was that like there is a difference. Mm-hmm. I can go much longer hungry than I can thirsty. Yes. And I was like, okay, this I'm in for.
Yeah, totally interesting. And if we think about like Feyre in the human world where it was hunger driven and then the bounty of Prythian, especially in the Spring Court, very similar with Ceres in her thirst and then waking up in Yavelia and having that like
water falling from the sky,
plentiful water, even just by your bedside. Yeah. Like, what do you mean I can have a glass of water?
Yeah. I can take a whole bath.
Yeah. What do you mean? Speaking of what do you mean, let's get into the world building mechanics in this book. How about? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't know if some of you will understand this reference, but I really hope you do. There used to be a recurring SNL character on Weekend Update called Stefan. And Stefan was played by Bill Hader and would come in and say, New York's hottest club is this. And it would always be something over the top, something really strange, something really weird. But one of the things Stefan always said was, this place has everything. And that is exactly how I feel about Yavelia, about this world. It is every possible thing, creature, trope, magic, storyline, plot point, all thrown in a soup pot. And it feels like Callie Hart is hoping that it worked. But I don't know that it did for me.
I think it felt a little pandery. Like,
yeah. Yes.
Like, as we established last season, love fae, love vampires. Mm-hmm.
Not together.
Not together. And obviously, like, there were vampires in Dark Fever, but they were vampires.
Yes.
And then there were fae.
Yes.
And they were separate things that just both existed in, like, your mythological Rolodex. Like, werewolves also existed, which that I can get behind.
Yeah.
But these were vampire fae, but not vampire fae.
Also vampire tendencies where they fed on humans as part of a curse, but then they got rid of the curse.
They got rid of the curse, but then they still sometimes have that sexual component of feeding.
Y'all, I'm at a loss for words. Just as like a quick list. This had fae, vampires, alchemy, magic, sprites of all of the elements, bonds and oaths, gods and the fates, fated mates, shadow magic, portals, which are different than Quicksilver gates, but then there was also different gates, demons, and much more.
Yeah, God's
blessed swords.
Yeah, but like abandoned God's blessed swords.
So I think pandering is a really great way to describe it. It didn't add to the world to me. It felt fully vibes, right? And it felt like Callie Hart wrote for vibes over plot or immersion. The world just felt too wide and an inch deep. Like nothing really pulled me in. And I felt like the immersion, which is what we talk about at Worlds Within, really slipped when everything exists, but nothing feels grounded or, I don't know, deep to me.
I think it was like going through an ice field. Okay, so, or like if you look in the book, that the river, easily broken, right? So it's just these chunks of ice that like you can kind of like float on or buoy on. That's what it felt like. But it wasn't like an iceberg that is so much more under the surface. It was just that.
She's really into the theme. You hinted at this.
I commit to the bit.
You hinted at this as well. We have some traditional fae tropes, but they're also sort of vampires. And you said that there is kind of a sexual component to the blood still. And where I found that really intriguing and like worked for me in Serpent, I was grossed out here.
Yes.
I was like, I don't like this.
No.
I don't like this at all. I don't like it. One of the other fae tropes that I thought was done really well in this book were like the precision of words. And so Kingfisher tells Cerys that she's got to make these relics, and she's like, okay, cool. I'll make the relics and then I can go home. And he's like, lol, it's 15,000 relics that you have to make. Figure it out. And I was like, that's so good. That I loved that part because it felt like Rumpelstiltskin, like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll spin the straw into gold. How am I going to do that? I have no idea. And that's exactly, I don't know. I just really loved this precision of words. Like, will you agree that you would make these relics and then I could send you home?
Yeah.
Here's a trunk full of rings that you've got to turn into relics.
Because it's not just you've agreed to make relics. You've agreed to make enough for my people.
Right.
These are my people's things that need to be turned into relics.
Hope you don't mind.
But I think, and that is very much like not just Rumpelstiltskin, but all fae. It's like we talk about it. We talked about it a couple times in last season's bargains. In that like what you and he even says it. What you think you're agreeing to is not always what you've agreed to. Like you need to be very intentional about your wording.
And we realize that he learned that himself, not because he's 18,000 years old or whatever, but because of a bargain that he got himself into. That coin flip.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that. This is a little spoilery at the end, but there is a bargain that Kingfisher enters about we, the bad guys, the bad triumvirate, will flip this coin. And when it hits the ground, if it's heads or tails, will determine the outcome or like what happens to Kingfisher.
But either way, it's over.
When the coin hits the ground. And so they flip the coin and snatch it out of the air. So it never hits the ground.
And what bothered me
loved it.
About it, and it was great. I loved it conceptually. What bothered me was that like Kingfisher is smarter than that. And they make such a big deal of you can't touch the coin. You can't impact the way that it like falls. You can't affect whether it's, heads or tails or what was it, leaves or fishes. You can't mess with it. But they didn't say anything about themselves and he didn't say anything. And I'm like,
And he knows better.
You know better.
He's of the world. Also in this world, we see the same kind of higher and lesser, right, of courtly fae versus common, which is a little tidbit to the next book that we'll read. But something else that I saw here is the naming convention. I liked everybody's name but Kingfisher. It felt like it stood out in a bad way, like a sore thumb to me. And then when they described that fae have true names that we don't share with anyone, I was like, oh, so Kingfisher's not his real name. And we don't know what it is. It also reminded me of cats and like the naming of cats.
It's a difficult matter.
It is. But I think Kingfisher's true name is explored more in Brimstone in book 2. But I thought that was like a really interesting tidbit and explanation why his name felt so different than Everlane and Renfis and Lorith. Like these more medieval sounding names. And then you have Kingfisher.
Yeah. Well, and so the thing is like the Fisher King is like an allegory.
Yeah.
Like that is, so like that, I assumed it was a title, like going into it, you know?
But Kingfisher is also a bird.
That's true.
Back to bird nerds.
Always comes
Welcome
back
to Bird Nerd Podcast. Just kidding.
It's like what that Scooby-Doo meme. Let's see what's under here. And it's a bird.
Birds. It's just birds. It's birds all the way down, folks. We've lost it. Okay. Continue.
Coming back.
The Fisher King.
So I assumed it was a title, but what tweaked me about the whole our true names bit, like, one, he was just about to give her his name, which, like, that felt too much. But also, everyone else's name that they go by, like, felt normal as opposed to a title. Like, and even though it was, like, this is a title, like the Lord of Kalish or whatever, I don't know. I want to know everyone's true name. And I want to know why, like, how do you determine... Again, naming of cats. I want to know how you determine the one that everyone knows.
Right.
Versus what your true name is. And what if your mom never tells you your true name?
Golly.
I don't
Trauma.
know. I got real deep on that one. I don't know why.
So we have some fae tropes that we've seen play through here. They're a little bit different, but it's nice to see. We talked about how the world is 10 miles wide, but maybe an inch deep and throws everything together. Something else that I think is done really well in the world building here is the contrast between Zilverin and Yavelia. It very much, I think we hinted at this, very much mirrors human versus Prithian, but with thirst as that driving factor. Zilverin is dry, hot, always daylight. It is rationed water. And I felt that world really vividly. Even the description of like how the city was built with spokes of the wheel and the heat, the desert, the statement, the afternoon air shivered with heat, I thought was incredible because we've all seen it, right? We've seen like the heat waves rise off the pavement, but to use shivered in such a hot place, knowing that we're going somewhere very cold, I really liked that.
Yeah. And you can feel like, I just feel like the arid, like, and I think it's because it's tied to the thirst. I could feel like the desperation and I could feel the heat and the discomfort of that more so than I did in the winter court, which is very weird because like I am more prone to being uncomfortable in the cold. And so I was anticipating like, I'm going to need to get cozy and everything. And I was like, I need to take off all of my clothes because I'm so hot right now from reading this book and not in the fun way. Like,
not in the fun way. Ooh. Oh, yeah. But that contrast, I think, it works really well. I think it was blown out of proportion, right? It was like so like very black and white, but I liked it. And it creates some consistent tension between those two worlds as Saris is experiencing them. And even as we get further into Yavelia, like away from the Winter Court or the Winter Palace up to the Kalish and then Iron, where the war camp is and the Darn and all of that furthers this contrast because now we're in like jagged, rugged mountains with frozen rivers and vampires maybe. I don't know. But I think this the description of both of these places does the heavy lifting of the world building beyond like what the Fae lore and everybody else in the soup pot does, which I appreciated. Another part that I appreciated, and I think this is the saving grace of this book for me, is the Quicksilver and the concept of alchemy. Woo! I really, really enjoyed that and wanted it to be the whole book.
Yeah. She spends not enough time in the forge. And like, I understand the like limited resource and like, but I wanted there to be also like, even when she was doing her things like, oh, I tried this thing and it just didn't work. It just burned up. But I'm like, I want something more explosive. I want to see failure.
Yes.
Not.
It's like we lost the stakes of it.
Yeah.
When she would just be so flippant with her failed experiments.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I did 3 and now I've got to like, I don't even know all the proper forging terms.
Oh, she had to refine all of the
thank
sugar.
you.
Yep. Or the sugar.
Silver.
That too. I mean,
yes. But every time she was in a forge or when she was working with the Quicksilver, the focus narrowed to just her and that experience. And that felt really intimate and close and the most immersive part of this entire book. The concept and like of Quicksilver itself is very interesting to me. It is a means of transportation. It has a very layered history, right? It is different than the shadow gates that exist that Kingfisher is able to pull out of thin air. Quicksilver, he says, is not of this realm. Therefore, it can be used within this realm, but also within or to other realms as well, which I thought was so interesting. And shadow gates are just like, I can go from point A to point B within the same world. It's really cool.
I also thought that it was interesting that like the Quicksilver is like, it is sentient.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved all of the little bargains she had to make.
Yes.
Like telling it a joke.
Yeah, loved that.
That was so refreshing, and like I did really enjoy that aspect of like the different things. Now, I will say I have like a slew of notes every time she was like working with Quicksilver. I'm like, what are you gonna lose? What are you gonna what do you have to bargain? And because she remembers the song because the Quicksilver remembers the song.
So she is part of it.
But everyone else forgets.
And will that come back into play?
I want to know if it comes back into play. But also, like, there was a couple times where she kept saying, like, I have such a great memory. I'm not going to forget anything. This moment is ours to keep. And I'm like,
is that true, though?
And
what else will the Quicksilver ask of her?
But then now I'm like, unless, I guess I don't know how much it comes back in Brimstone, because I would assume that the focus of Brimstone is working with Brimstone. But I'm like, I was a little disappointed that it was all silly and that there were not higher stakes to lose with the Quicksilver. Like all of the stakes were everywhere else.
And even then I felt like I lost the stakes.
Fair.
There. I was like, I don't know what's happening. At some point I truly just like kind of gave up of trying to follow these various plot points and like what we're trying to solve here because it felt disconnected.
Yeah, there was too much going on. Couldn't track it all.
But I felt connected every time the Quicksilver was involved, especially I'll say not every time. Felt really connected when she shattered Danya's sword and then all of those like tiny threads of metal were stuck into the wall and she was like, I think I can just go talk to it and get them to like back out. And then the whole chapter of her making the new sword, so good.
Yes. Where
the Quicksilver kind of lost me is the fact that it is bound to Kingfisher. Like it's in his eyeball. I don't know why that mattered other than maybe it drove him crazy, but what about it is driving him crazy? So why is it in his eyeball?
Also, he's not bound anymore.
Yeah.
Because like
they were finding out
like she talks
yeah.
Like she talks to the Quicksilver and is like, come out please, and they're like, we cannot.
Yeah.
He will die. And
we can't.
Sorry. But then
Taylena and the witch. Oh yeah, there's also witches and mentions of dragons in this book and healers. This place has everything.
Everything. And what's funny is like when we see the skull in the throne room.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, dragons, when that come back?
Yeah.
And then never. But then it did come back in like the Agengate story, because that was the dragon's skull, like that they talk about in this.
Probably will come in Brimstone.
Yeah, but like,
yeah, I know. I know. We don't need book 1 to be a prologue.
Book 1 could have been 3 separate books.
It definitely could have. And probably would have done more for immersion if it were tighter.
Yes. Agreed.
All right. Speaking of immersion, we get some really good sensory descriptions, I would say, throughout. We've talked about the contrast of Zilverin and the Winter Court and Kalish, so I don't think we need to spend more time there. One I pulled out was the wind ate everything in this city, and I like this idea of giving personification to things that are not real.
Yeah.
Not real, but you know what I mean. Like the wind, and then later they describe the rust had eaten things as if it also were alive, and I thought that was really cool.
Agreed.
We've got the briny sour tang of pickled minnows, some food mentions, but not a ton here. It was more so focused on thirst, like you talked about, and all of the sensory descriptions around water. It was really great.
Yeah, we do get, I love that you pulled this one. I do love the stank worse than a sand badger, because they talk like in a lot of, one of the criticisms of romantasy is like, this heroine has been on a horse for 6 days. I would like, she's going to smell awful. They do talk about that a lot. Like, you need to go take a bath.
They do.
And I'm like, I appreciate that, because like, you had the stank worse than a sand badger, but then like there's legitimate, like even the humans can smell it things. And then they also really dive deep into
what the Fae can smell.
Fae can smell things that have been on you for weeks.
What you've got going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which was so cringy.
Yeah.
And embarrassing to read.
Yes.
Ugh, golly. But yeah, I think there was some good stuff. I'm just looking at our notes here. Some good sensory descriptions. The way that snow and cold was described was really great, I thought, throughout. Especially as this is the first time Saris is experiencing all of this. And so her delight in a lot of it, like feeling the gentle fall of snow on her face, was really sweet, and made me excited for winter. Yeah. Actually.
And she, at one point in the Winter Palace, she describes that the light was devoid of any warmth. You had pulled that. And I think that is really important too, because it is part of that contrast, but also like it again sets that cool tone, because there's like there's the reds and oranges and yellows of like a sunlight that is warming and like bakes into you, but then like the cool reflecting of whatever light off of snow is very chilling, and like you'd expect light to be warm, and it's not.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Good, not great.
Yeah. Doesn't save it.
I will say, folks, our list of sensory quotes pulled out is pretty short. And I think that just tells you what's going on in this book.
Yep.
Moving right along to the characters and emotional texture within this book, I'm going to talk about a few, probably the big 3 characters. We have Saris, who's our female main character.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you know it, she is a special girl, like they all are. But I like Saris's attitude quite a bit. It reminded me of Araya's attitude of like, no, I've got this. I can do it. Like, I'm fucking capable.
And she was legitimately, like, she, again, unlike Feyre, she's legitimately intelligent the whole time.
She can read.
She can read. Her skills come from legitimate, like from a young age, like, single digit age, she was training with knives and swords and like combat. She actually knew what she was doing, as opposed to somebody who was just like, I'm just relying on the many years of, or like the history of my ancestors that's just instinctively living in my body.
But I think overall we liked Saris. And I think she added good emotional texture to the story.
She was not insufferable.
She was not insufferable. She's not my favorite, but she's not insufferable. The second, I'm going to switch my mind. The second one I want to talk about is Kingfisher, because I did find him insufferable. I didn't like him at all. He did not win me over in any way, shape, or form. I will say the spicy scenes worked for me.
Well, yeah.
But him as like our male main character, our love interest, go away. I wrote literally he's possessed and possessive. And I hated that. I hated the way that he was like, do not share any food with Carrion ever again. And she's like, we weren't sharing it. He was just like giving me a bite. Like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal? And he's like, no. He also said something at the end toward Madra, which took me out. And I was like, oh, I'm done with this. And of course, it's right at the end. But he said, you spayed my mate. I hated that.
Yeah. I'm a mom. So that's fine. I'm not anti having kids.
Yeah.
But it is 100% a choice.
Yeah.
And now I will say I hate that for Saris because she was given no choice.
Correct.
And that is a thing that is explored a lot in this is her desire for consent.
Yes.
Like that she wants to control the outcome and have the option to do the thing. That 9 times out of 10, she's like, I'll do what you want me to do.
Just ask
but
me.
I just want you to ask me instead of compel me.
Yeah.
So I feel for her on that. Like she should have the option. But that he's upset about it because she's not.
Yeah. She's like,
she's like, whatever, this is fine.
This is actually really convenient.
So like, yeah, that bothered me because she's the most powerful alchemist in the history of the world. And he's concerned about her ability to breed.
Ugh. I just didn't like him. Like, I thought he was mean to her for no reason. Like, I get that he's curmudgeonly and traumatized, but we get we get Saris's backstory of like what happened to her mom. She is also traumatized.
Yeah.
And just because she wasn't trapped in a labyrinth with a pile of coins doesn't make it any less traumatic.
Well, and it stems from it stems from him like wanting to distance himself, but not wanting to distance himself and wanting to protect her, but being selfish. You're not letting her make any decisions in this. You are deciding that you're going to be a dick.
Yeah. And everybody else, like all the sidekicks see it too. They're like, hey, could you be nicer to her? Like, this is ridiculous.
Like this isn't you.
You should probably have dinner with her because she's doing a lot. And she's here to save your people.
Also, maybe see her as a human.
Yeah.
Like,
not a tool.
as a person.
Oh, we're out on Kingfisher. But you know who I'm in on? Carrion. Carrion gave me everything I wanted in this book, even like from the beginning of just like who he was and how he was described. His bright auburn hair was a signal flare in the dimly lit tavern. I really enjoyed him and the comedic relief. He is a notorious gambler, cheat, smuggler in this entire city. But I liked him as kind of the comedic foil here.
I did.
Oh no.
Until.
Oh, I know where you're going.
I made a note at one point.
You did.
Where I said, like, he starts talking about, like, a knowledge of the Fae that his grandmother had read this book to him. And I'm just like, this is absolutely too freaking convenient that you mysteriously know about the Fae. And I was like, I'm starting to fall out on you because I'm like, there's something is off about you. Something is wrong. Like you are not what you seem. And I don't like it. Like you were great as comedic foil. You were great as like former love interest, not really love interest. Like I was expecting there to be more of a love triangle between the three of them. And honestly, again, with us not liking Kingfisher, I was hoping that eventually he'd win. Yeah. I knew that it wasn't going to happen, but I was like, I wanted there to be more of a buildup, right?
Yes.
And then, like, we get to the end and out of nowhere, he goes from, like, playfully ignorant of everything and just kind of existing for fun. And, like, all of a sudden he's like, you should have let me introduce myself. And I'm like,
why now?
Why? Yeah.
Why now?
Now, I will say, like, I was pleasantly surprised that he was the Dianthus heir and not her. Because obviously, when we're getting those stories, I'm assuming it's her. So that was a cool twist, and I liked that. But come on.
Very convenient.
Too convenient, and I didn't like it.
I know.
And and it ruined him for me.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Because like up until that point, he was so great.
Yeah.
And he was like a redeeming character. And like, I'm sure that like if I read the next book that like he could probably be redeemed for me. But like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Have you heard some of the snippets?
No, I haven't. And that's why I said
if there's any redemption happening in Brimstone.
If I read the second, again, I said if I read the second book, I don't know that I will. I was so disappointed.
That's fair.
That's what happened to him.
Totally
I was like,
fair.
So
I liked him quite a bit. But yeah, I totally understand. Like, it becomes too convenient when you're like, haha, this is a twist and it's right at the right time. And wouldn't you know it, it's this guy all along. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. We do have some other sidekicks. As I listed them, we have Lorith and Renfis and Everlane and Rosarius and Hayden and Elroy, and the list goes on and on and on. Which I thought that they were a good band of merry characters. You know, I thought that they added enough to the story without overshadowing anything that was happening with our main two characters.
Yeah.
They added detail, they added stakes. Like, there's definitely something going on between Renfis and Everlane, which I think is really interesting.
And I'm okay that we didn't get more than that.
Yes, but without being distracting. But they raised the emotional stake and the texture of this world. And then we have our villains. Insert eye roll here. Because their only motivation to be villainous is just because they're evil. Like, so we have Madra, who's the Undying Queen. We have Malcolm, who's a vampire. And then we have King Belicon. Sure, we'll say that. He's the king of Yuvelia. But, wouldn't you know it, they're a triumvirate of bad guys.
I did think it was cool that, like, they said, like, we are 3 crowns from one, like, power source or whatever. And so, like, they're kind of not like a Hydra, but you have, in order to kill one, you have to kill
like
them
Cerberus?
all. Kind of, yeah. And so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, conceptually, again, just like, it was okay. Like, all right, that's not fine. That's fine. It was just very anticlimactic.
Blech.
So.
I feel like Madra is wanting to live in Amarantha's shoes, and we just couldn't get there.
She's also, like, so removed from the action.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand at the beginning when she, like, started going crazy.
Yeah.
Like, but then she was very sane at the end.
Y'all, it wasn't great.
It wasn't.
We've been able to talk through the world, how we've built the world, the sensory immersion, even if it's a bit lacking in places, and then a few of our main characters and how they add history, texture, emotional stakes. Is there anything else before we get to portal moments?
No, I think we've covered a good bit.
All right, let's do it. So, portal moments. At the end of each episode, we talk about our peak portal moment. This is the time or scene or moment in the book where we felt the most immersed, where the world felt the biggest, realest, where it took up the most space. So I'm curious to hear yours.
So I'm actually kind of surprised that this one wasn't the one you chose because you referenced it earlier in the episode. But for me, it was when Saris was reforging Danya's sword, because like she is so in the moment.
It's like flow state.
Yeah.
She's just in it and she's like, one more time.
And she's like so driven to create this thing that is beautiful. And like the people that are around her are the right people to be around her at that time. And when Lorith is singing that song, like, one, I will say that was beautifully written prose. And like if I was watching the scene, it felt very akin to in Lord of the Rings when Pippin is singing for the King in the White Tower, and like that very like melodic, it's
medieval minstrel, like,
and but like full of like sorrow and longing. Like I just really felt the music happening, and I thought that was all beautiful, and I was very in that scene, and I loved that a lot. So
I did really love that. I loved it too because it was Saris trying to make good. Right? She was trying to fix something that she broke, and was seeing like Danya, who is part of the Lupus Proelia, which what a throwaway thing, but part of Kingfisher's like band of merry wolves. She's trying to be like, oh, like if I like this guy, like I got to fix this sword because I broke it and blah, blah, blah. And then the twist is that it becomes Lord's sword. I really did like that. But my portal moment is when Cerys awakens the Quicksilver underneath the Winter Palace. And then she inevitably, that's like she sends Kingfisher to go get Hayden, which turns out to be Carrion. But the way that she has slipped out of like I think Everlane and Kingfisher were supposed to be like keeping an eye on her, and she slipped down and she was like, I know how to navigate dark palace halls. Like I've done it all the time because I was stealing from the reservoirs. And so she's going down and down and down and down, trying to find this pool of Quicksilver because she's like, I can get back. If I got here, I can get back. The way that it really just tightens around her and the sentience of the Quicksilver, and it's calling to her, pulled me in the same way that I think it pulled Cerys in, right? The air felt heavy, too thick to draw down in my lungs as I slowed to catch my breath. There was a sound, too, a constant ringing, the pitch so high I couldn't actually hear it. It was as though I could feel it rattling in my eardrums. And then the way she described the pool of Quicksilver, loved it. Its reflective surface was smooth as the surface of a mirror. But a mirror's sole purpose was to tell you the truth. It didn't differentiate between good and bad. A mirror had no desire to soothe your troubles or deceive you. It was glass and nothing more. This pool of shining silver was awake and full of lies. And just the urge she feels to step into it, and like, I just really, like, almost like she's possessed by it and drawn to it like a moth to a flame. I just really loved it. And that's how she wakes it up, and it was great.
Yeah.
I was really there with her.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a great moment, because you're right. Like, I think my favorite bit of that was that, you know, the mirror is meant to show you the truth, whatever that is, but the pool was awake, that it was living, and then it was full, again, to your giving things that are not alive or dead.
Yeah.
That personification. So
my English teachers would be so proud.
We paid attention. Look at us.
We took good notes. All right.
We retained some things.
I think
too many years later.
That's a wrap on this episode of Worlds Within. Before we go, let's give Quicksilver our immersion rating on a scale of 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, I have gripes.
Really? I hadn't picked them up.
And y'all have heard them. And truly, like, I think my portal rating is generous despite my gripes, because the Quicksilver, the alchemy part of it, the contrast between Zilverin and Yavelia, those felt interesting to me. The rest I couldn't hold on to. I wasn't immersed. Like I said, I kind of gave up. I'm like, I lost the stakes. I don't know if I just, you kind of zone out while you're reading. But the fact that I could zone out while I was reading tells me that this immersion rating is correct. So I'm going with 4 out of 10.
So interesting that you picked a 4, because that's also where my mind was.
Same twins.
And because like the thing is I at no point was like I like, okay, I need to take a break from the, like, I did want to keep reading.
No, I didn't. I would have DNF'd had we not picked this for our episode.
I wanted to keep reading because I wanted to see if they were going to fix it. I was like, I was invested in figuring out, like,
can they do it?
Can they do it? Can it get better?
Yeah.
And then it just didn't. But again, there were some good things. Like, I'm a sucker for alchemy. I do think that that's a really underplayed trope, in my opinion, or tool. So there was that. But yeah, there were just, again, and I think also, like, again, I loved Carrion until I didn't love Carrion. So
also shout out to Onyx.
Yes.
We loved Onyx.
We do love, we love
a pet.
We love a pet. And also,
pro
like,
animals.
I mean, obviously we love a fox. So, that's kind of like a thing.
Arctic fox.
Little Arctic fox. All right. Well, we've reached the end of this episode of Worlds Within. And Quicksilver was a book that said, why pick one magical thing when you could truly have them all?
This book has everything.
Whether you loved the sandy desert heat of Zilverin, the chill of Yuvelia, or were really just in it for Onyx the Fox, thanks for wandering with us.
And y'all know I had gripes with ACOTAR, but I at least felt compelled to read the next 3 books in that series, but I don't think I'm picking up Brimstone after this.
Same.
But anyway, next episode, we are getting cozy. Join us as we curl up with Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Until then, stay warm, stay curious, and remember, if the Quicksilver starts whispering your name, maybe don't follow it. But do follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you in the next world. Bye!
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of Worlds Within, where story becomes space. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Worlds Within Pod for more episodes, sensory guides to your favorite books, and more.
And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Bye!